Welcome back to Russia in Context. So, the Russian government loves to complain about cancel culture and how the West is doing everything it can to cancel Russia and its culture. So, ignoring the fact that Russian literature, classical music, and fine arts can still be found in libraries, universities, museums, and other establishments abroad, little has been done by those crying the loudest here in Russia to actually do anything proactive about promoting new and worthy additions to culture from Russia, both domestically and abroad. So, with this new series of videos, Uncanceled Culture, the aim is to shine the spotlight on such things, new music and media from Russia, that is worthy of your consideration. The first entry in this series is dedicated to what was considered by many to be one of the best Russian albums of 2023, Wild East by Saluki. And yes, I realize that it came out something like 10 months ago, but this is probably new to you, so it doesn't really make any difference, does it? Before we get into a deeper discussion of the album, though, I want to highlight that Saluki was originally a hip-hop beat maker before he started making his own music, a fact that helps to contextualize the freewheeling nature of the album. The level of creative control exercised over the length of Wild East is extensive, and it also speaks to the prowess of Saluki in terms of his producing skills. Now, I might get some clap back with this one, but listening to the inventiveness on Wild East and knowing Saluki's backstory, I couldn't help but be reminded of the early days of Kanye West. It's also vital to stress that Wild East is an album in the proper sense of the word. See, over the last few decades, the industry has become more inclined to focus on singles and even snippets of songs, these little bite-sized morsels that play well and go viral in TikTok videos and their ilk. But Saluki has crafted something here which demands to be listened to from start to finish. One of the most important things for an album is sequencing, and Wild East is masterfully put together in that sense. The emotions shift from light to heavy and then back again, never letting you feel overwhelmed by any one specific mood. This can even happen over the course of a song, with many of them feeling like miniature prog rap tracks, if that makes sense. These sort of nebulous things that can't maintain any one form for too long. Wild East is the sound of Russia today. Doomer vibes, violence, but also unrestrained joy and vivacity. Now, there are tracks on this album that I'm not as keen on, but again, taken within the framework of emotional ups and downs, of attempting to sonically construct a window into the urban reality of the youth in many Russian cities, these songs still work. The title track is a good example of this. The vibe is not one I would choose to revisit on my own, but within the flow of the album, I have no pretenses toward it. Even the interludes, which aren't positioned as such, work at the level of Saluki experimenting with the oral palette, sort of digging up a nugget, an idea that likely didn't fit elsewhere, yet still feels at home on the album. So, my first time listening to the album was a head scratcher for that unbridled character that I just mentioned. My mind simply couldn't figure out what to make of everything that was being thrown at it. The second time, though, things began to click, and already on the third spin, I was hooked. Now, that may sound like a lot of time invested, as Wild East has a runtime of 70 minutes, but it's an album that needs to put down roots. For that reason, it won't be easy to get out of your head, though, once it has taken up residence, but you'll be A-okay with this. I'm sure I'm going to be revisiting this album in the future, at the very least to measure others against it. I have to note that Saluki's vocals can be something of a turnoff upon first listen, as his style of mumble rap is akin to this Kazakh rapper Skriptonite, but the more time I spent with the album, the more I came to appreciate their peculiarity. See, the inflections, frequent intonation switches, and over-the-top nature of Saluki's singing and rapping makes it often seem as though he's approaching it like an actor might, giving the words additional emotional depth that can make ambiguous lyrics at least adhere to a specific mood. That's one of the factors that makes the album worth a listen, even if you don't speak a word of Russian. The lyrics, though usually of a serious nature, are just as often abstract to the point where how they are expressed, the vibe being produced, is almost of greater importance than what they actually say. Russian rap, as with a lot of music from Russia for as long as I can recall, often doesn't feel the need to adhere to specific unspoken rules or respective tropes of a genre. This is a trend that has become all the more common everywhere over the last few decades thanks to the internet. Now, with regards to Russia in particular, I always felt it was more due in part to the music industry being much smaller and less dead set in specific directions, and also just because a lot of popular music has largely been associated with the underground in modern Russia and in the Soviet Union before. Wild East encapsulates this. It's technically a rap album, which references touchstones of the genre from the last 2 decades, while simultaneously displaying this devil may care attitude on the whole. That said, let's hear a little bit of this kaleidoscope of sound that I've been talking about. Viedma kind of vibes like The Faint from the Dance Macabre album of 2001. Встретимся у кассы sways like a drunk attempting to keep on his feet and get the rest of the room involved in a sing-along. Немного круче. It has that Rasta sound. There's nothing more to be said about it. Home with Basta is an acoustic closer, just sort of brimming with sentimentality, and it feels like it could be a modern counterpart to Rise Against's Swing Life Away.
Давай сыграем свадьбу. Я буду нормальным, обещаю. Нет, мне нужно быть с тобой. Мне нужно быть с тобой. Мне нужно быть с тобой.
There are plenty of kitschy traditional Russian sounds, like on the intro to Lag Out, and the interlude No Church in the Wild East, which functions more as a prayer and a mantra.
Господи, даруй мне спокойствие, чтобы принять то, что я не могу изменить. Храбрость, чтобы изменить то, что могу. И мудрость, чтобы отличить одно от другого, одно от другого, одно от другого, одно от другого, одно от другого.
The ending of Boys and the song Glugasir feel like Saluki is attempting to recreate Bon Iver's For Emma Forever Ago, and Tak Lekko Zamrznet has a similar indie feel, maybe even Bon Iver again, but from his 22 A Million era.
Салюты вокруг меня, мое небо в ярких красках, но тут явно что-то не так. Это снова не мой праздник. Салюты вокруг меня, разноцветные глазки. Эти птички пели так сладко, но я не верю их сказкам, нет. Я пахну как коньяк, лечу ее пола, она лечит мой стой. Растушку надо бизнес, если мне так надо. Вспышки активно двигать, сердце не станет дом. Холодный, но настойка, чтоб самому не замерзнуть. Видел столько пацанов, так легко замерзнуть.
Vylechim is a song that opens with and kind of relies heavily upon these solemn strings, haunting a bass line and a hi-hat. It just creates this brooding atmosphere and feels like a preemptive victory lap in the early tracks of Wild East. Reminds me a lot of Fly In from Lil Wayne's The Carter 2. I should probably mention some highlights from the hip-hop end of the spectrum, as this album is positioned in that genre. While it's not the most interesting track on the album in terms of diversity of ideas, Soloist has one of the greatest verses on Wild East thanks to Jimbo, And I absolutely love the wordplay in lines like "Знаю эти тонкости, Nike цветом в тон кости," even if they're kind of nonsensical. Another great verse comes from ATL in the song Lag Out, and it's great both in terms of delivery and imagery.
Эй, не верю слезам, я Москва На бите за целый сквад Со мной небеса в землю травмат Тут и так шмаляет флоу, как будто полуавтомат. Эй, знаю эти тонкости, Nike цветом в тонкости. Выходя из пропасти, не попади под лопасти. У меня особый стиль из всех на этой плоскости.
Тот, кто не сгинул под веществами, навечно под сердцем поселится с нами. Во тьме моей внутренней пятиэтажки со всеми мифическими существами. Колется иголочка нефтяная, катится ласточка гробовая. После похорон те мудры повали, открыл глаза, лежу охуеваю.
Actually, I take back what I said earlier. The one song I probably could do without is Magdalene, but that's probably just because I'm way over the sad boy rap that Drake birthed over a decade ago, and this song is nothing more than a worse version of that. Hands down, though, the best tracks on the entire album are Огне and Болото, and I feel like most people who have listened to the album will just agree with me on this. They are the yin and the yang of Wild East, with Огне from its opening seconds creating an atmosphere that is perfectly represented in the song's music video, with Saluki and others at parties and a bonfire under the night sky, just reveling and in love with life. Balota, on the other hand, is unabashedly that hard hip-hop sound full of bleak imagery, equally uninviting backing instrumentals, and a chorus that turns the phrase, "the point of my life is struggle," into a confrontational mantra.
Сколько пальцев крутятся, плавь в городе, эй, 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 плавь в городе, эй, 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 эй. Всё по погоде, и всё будто в том анекдоте. Смысл моей жизни — это борьба. Смысл моей жизни — это борьба. Смысл моей жизни — это борьба. Никаких церквей в городах. Долгий путь мой в моих глазах.
So there you have it. Wild East by Saluki is one of the best Russian albums I have heard in ages for numerous reasons, and it's available for streaming on Spotify, so I highly recommend giving it a spin or two or three. Just let it creep in up here. Is it a perfect album? No, not quite, but for a young artist like Saluki, it's a clear sign that we should sit up and pay attention to what comes next. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you will give the album a shot. I know the genre might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I'll be covering other genres in the future, to be sure. In the comments section below, let me know what you thought about the album and this video, or if you have any recommendations for things I might check out next. I'm going to try and do at least 2 of these uncanceled culture videos per month. And I've got some plans for what comes next, but if there's something I should check out, let me know. Also, I hope this slightly different format is a nice change of pace. I know I'm still inside, but I figured I would get up out of the chair. I will save that for the news recaps. So, as always, this has been Russia in Context. Thanks for watching.